Okay, thank you. I would like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu Cree, and Dakota peoples, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Neil Harden. I'm chairing today's panel. With me are Kent Seelan and Linda McFadden. The assessor today is Sharon Tang, and the administrative personnel is Twinkle Sharma. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment role in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matter for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we'll limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that the comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the board. The board is appointed annually by council and is independent of it in the city administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order to be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decision with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value reclassification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We'll then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions the applicant may have, then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You'll receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We'll be hearing items 1 through 3 and 5 through 9 on our docket today. Ms. Sharma, please affirm the assessors and applicants' testimony.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, I'll just be doing that today just because I have the certification for it.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Madam Assessor, please state your full name.
Sharon Tang.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Henry DuPont.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. The first property on today's agenda is 125 Mira Gate. Ms. Teng, can you lead us through the basic information? And then I understand we have a preliminary issue to deal with.
Okay. So file number is 24-1805. Row number is 0500942990. Address is 125 Mirror Gate. The assessed value for 2025 is $42,528,000. So bottom page 1, so there should be 4 buildings on the property instead of 5. They range between 2 to 4 stories. It was built in 2022. There are a total of 161 suites, 44 indoor parking, and 161 outdoor parking. Page 2.
If we can pause there. Now, the preliminary issue that we have is that there was a part of the applicant's brief that was received late, which is basically, as I understand it, a list of a tenant rent roll from a property. Do you have any objections to receiving that as late information?
I don't have any objection.
Yeah, I believe it was only a couple of minutes late, whatever.
Okay.
I'd have to recall, but I think it was very, very close to the deadline.
Yeah, it was received at around 4:32, but it was considered as received on December 4th because it was past the working hours.
Okay, so Ms. Tang, does the city have any objection to receiving this?
So it was a separate email sent to us? That was
No,
a separate document?
It's not a separate document, it's already there, it has been exchanged with
Oh.
you already, but
Okay.
it's just received late. And
Oh.
I think Mr. Dupont has been already notified about that.
Okay. I
Yeah.
don't have any issues.
Any issue? Okay. So the board then will just take a very brief moment to consider whether to allow the late evidence or not. So we'll just take a very brief pause. Okay, thank you. Welcome back. The panel has deliberated and we will allow the item into evidence. So Ms. Tang, you can proceed with your presentation.
So do I just continue with
Yeah.
what okay.
Yeah, just continue. Yeah.
So page 2 and 3 of my brief shows the subject property photos. So you can see that there are 4 buildings. There is a basketball court on the property as well, and some parkings along the property line. Page 4 shows the sale history for the subject property. It was sold prior to the building was built. So it was sold in 2021 for $2,660,750. And page 5 to page 8 of my brief shows the permits for the buildings on the property. And page 9 shows the evaluation. So there are 67 one-bedroom, 72 two-bedroom, 22 three-bedrooms, and we assign monthly rent of $1,683.23. Then we use 3% vacancy, 35.96% expense ratio, and 4.75% cap rate. And that gives us $42,528,000, which is equivalent to about $264,000 per unit. Page 10 of my brief shows the 2022 sales transactions on the market for multifamily. So we can see that the properties are sold between 266,000 to about 283,000 per unit, which align with our assessed value. Page 11 and 12 is the comparable rent and photos, and 13 and 14 is the cap rate studies. And page 20 to page 23 is the information for the subject property. And that's my presentation.
Okay, questions, Mr. Dupont?
Okay, thought I had lost it. So the expense ratio you use is 36%, is that correct?
Yeah, 35.96%, that's right.
So it's a bit on the low side. You have any comparables for that?
No, I don't.
And do you know why it's so low? Is there a particular factor that makes this expense ratio low?
My understanding is that because the property is so new, so it doesn't have lots of repair and maintenance expenses for the property itself. So we typically would assign a lower expense ratio for the properties.
Because it's new, but going forward, if I'm talking about other new properties are not that low.
I'm not familiar with any other properties unless you have any examples. I can take a look.
Any cap rate that you have on this is likely because it's new also.
I guess given the age and the location and the condition of the property and the number of suites.
Your cap rates on page 13 from the brokers, the table, the fort area there, the multifamily, Colliers is 5 to 6, CBRE 4.755 and a quarter, and this would be a low rise. is 4 stories, so it'd be Cushman is 5 to 5.75. So would you agree that this is higher than the lowest of the broker's report?
I agree.
And your comparables on page 14, cap rate comparables. Do you have any new properties there that would be comparable?
I guess it would just be 2390 McPhillips. That'll be fairly new. It was built in 2015. And that one has a 4.71% cap rate.
Would you agree that for 2390 McPhillips, you use the actual rents prior to the sale rather than market rents?
That is correct.
Now, your rents, you got 4 comparables, they all lower rents, 1,500s, 1,400s than subject. So doesn't your comparables indicate the subject is overassessed for rents?
Those comparables also have a lower square footage per unit. And also, I don't think these comparables have a basketball court on the property or some other amenities. And the other properties are also older compared to the subject property as well.
But they're built in 2021, 2018, etc. That would be the newer type properties, and they would have similar amenities. If it's not basketball court, they would have gyms and or pools, etc.
The subject property also has gyms and pools.
Do you know what the amenities are for those 4 comparables?
Not on top of my head. No.
Your last comparable, number 4, North Point Boulevard, that would be in Linden Ridge. Is that correct? Linden Woods?
I'm not too sure where, like which area it would be considered as.
So the rent is there 1409, subject 1683, so 280, 275 rent higher. That one also has a high number of 2 bedrooms, very similar square footage. So would that not indicate that your rents are $200 to $300 too high?
But like I said, there are some extra amenities for the subject property compared to these comparables, which commands a higher rent. And we don't have we don't have the income and expense information from the owner to either support or disagree with the rent that we have. We're just looking at the market information.
And the subject location, would you agree, is at North McPhillips, outside of the developed area? It's a bit of a remote location.
It's close to a permanent highway, probably. I'm not too sure what you mean by the remote area.
It's not in a developed area, away from the retail, which is on Leela.
I'm not sure. But I mean, if there is a building built on the property itself and the building are being rented out, I'm sure there's a demand for the area.
Okay, that's all questions I have.
All right. Mr. Seelan, any questions?
Yes, you mentioned that there's some extra amenities. Can you tell us what these amenities are?
I think there's a clubhouse that exists on the property and also a basketball court. So I guess for the property, the location of the property itself, that there are not many parks in the area. The basketball court would be considered as an asset. So is I'm not too sure about anything else.
Your summary here, is this all model driven here?
That is correct.
So you made no adjustments here. Is it typical for a new location like this to be at 4.75% for cap rate?
I'm not sure.
That's all my questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. McFadden.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Okay, on page 21, I think some of the features of the building are listed there, are they not?
Yeah, that's correct.
And in terms of that North Point, comparable North Point Road, I believe, your map on page 12 seems to show it right around the corner from the subject property.
The North Point property?
Yeah, I think so. Isn't that it? The black arrow there?
It looks like it's around West Kildonan Industrial.
Yeah, well, that area is, of course, a newly developing area, and there's quite a lot of development going out in that area. Okay, I have no further questions, so Mr. DuPont, you can proceed with your presentation.
Okay, so the first page shows the photos, and we're asking for a large reduction there from 52 million to 31 million 6. We can go to the appendix. Well, actually, we should go to the map. I should take more of the aerial photos, but the number 4 shows it's a vacant lot and then Myra Gate, and then there's some undeveloped lands in the area. And then the page 5, it shows where it is, and so just noted that it's all green space, undeveloped, and there's a lot of green space there. So it has West Kelowna industrial area, and then there's just a small little area that's being developed there. So it's relatively far from the developed area and far from the existing retail. So it will take a while for the development to reach where it is now. Then the aerial photo, also page 5. We should go to the appendix to see what this property is all about. So that page 15, they show the amenities there. Building amenities, fitness center, indoor bike storage, a movie theater, which is a bit unusual. Outdoor parking has very little indoor parking. We'll get to that information later. Resident lounge, games room, IT business room, outdoor pool. Doesn't show a basketball court. They don't talk about it, but I believe the photos will show. And suite amenities shows pretty much normal for newer properties to have those particular suite amenities. Then we have the floor plans that they have. Like the 1 bedroom that starts at 536 square feet, relatively small. Then next type, 686 square feet, still a bit small. And then 898, 1 bedroom with 2 baths and a den, and that is a decent size. And the 2 bedrooms are shown there in 900 square feet, and that's a decent size. Now, I guess I didn't take an overhead photo, but our page 5, I believe, it shows a pool, and right beside the pool might have a small basketball court, which I don't think is a big factor. So then I sent it the rent roll at 432, and then if you look at the rent roll, and that's the rent that it has, and it shows 248,055 after discounts. That has discounts there, $975, and not a moving credit, 7245. 248,055, and that comes to the amount that I have in my report. I have to go back to my report now. It's my page 12. What I was doing is I was relying on 106 Leora Gate, also a sister building, and they had rents of 1482. However, I found the rent roll, and 248 times 12 is exactly the same rents, 2,976,660. So those are the actual rents in the property versus the assessor 3,252,000. So that's after the discount shown on line 2. Then we allow the same vacancy as the assessor, 3%. We add miscellaneous income. The parking is included in the above rents. So our EGI is lower than the assessor, 250,000 lower. So it's a big difference is in the rents itself. Then the assessor uses 36%. We use 42.9. The city for 106 Lira, the sister buildings, 37.9. 2023, they had 38.74. And 106 Lira for 2023, I believe, was 42.9%. So the 36.9 is very low expense ratio. So we went with 42.9%. So our cap rate, we use 5.25, and I'll go back to it again. Other remarks, it says, please note building was finished in 2022, no year-end IE for 2022. We use 106 Lira as the basis, very similar, but then found the rent roll, which I set at the last minute there. I'm opening something else here. So cap rate, page 11. So for 2005 plus, we use 5% to 5.75. And then yet there's various factors to see whether it should be higher or not. So a large number of suites would usually attract a higher cap rate. More professionals involved. The assessment department themselves have a higher cap rate for larger properties. Now it's a multi-building T wood frame apartment building, so increased risk, the higher repair maintenance due to that construction type. Building amenities are good, high quality finishes, outdoor pool, tennis court, fitness facilities, balconies. Location, we see it's remote. It's a long undeveloped area of North McPhillips. So that I guess they bought it because of cheap land, being outside the developed area. And it will take time for the developments to catch up to it. Parking in Prairie, only 23% of the suites have indoor parking, 124% is outdoor. So then the next page 12, the income approach, I went through that before, but the factors are shown on above. So the parking shown there, 44 indoor, 194 outdoor. It's 27% for indoor. So properties of that vintage usually have indoor parking, the majority, and not all of them, but it's so it's an inferior factor to have very little indoor parking. And then the top right is the factors again, which I had mentioned in the previous page. And that's my report. And I have a cap rate study, which I'd like to introduce as evidence.
Okay. Do you wish to speak on the cap rate study or just have it accepted as evidence?
I'd like to quickly speak about 2390 McPhillips because it's also a newer property.
Okay. Go ahead then.
Okay. Okay. So let me find the cap rate study. So if you find a cap rate study, you should go start page 12. That's where a list of cap rates are. And the last two, 150 Hendon and 2390 McPhillips, the most comparables. They're large properties. They would be professional type properties to buy, whereas the other ones are smaller properties. So 150 Hendon, we say is 5.42%, 1972. 2390 McPhillips comes to 5.59. And normally you should have a lower cap rate for a newer property so that the age here doesn't seem to be a big factor. But nevertheless, the assessor and Altus, we have a tiered cap rates where the older it gets, the higher the cap rate. So 150 Hendon, we have the little remarks there, but we can go to, we have workups following each one of those. And then 150 Hendon starts at page 20. Then the appendix for each of those will be following. I believe it starts page 80 and then page 90, whatever, for McPhillips. So we have all the background information. So on this one, 150 Hendon, the actual rent 2020, year and a half before the sale of June 2021, shown top left there, the sale. The vendor applied for rent increase prior to the sale, and line 27, the repair maintenance, the increase in repair maintenance for those 2 years, and that's what gave them the ammunition to get the rents increase by the RTB. And then the RTB approved the rent increase on the possession date, effective on the possession date. So the purchaser obtained those particular rents. So instead of using the old prior rents, I used the rents at the time of purchase. I believe the assessor has the same cap rate, and they are using the prior year rent or year and a half old rent. Then the next page, page 21, 2290 McPhillips. There we show the line 3, the actual rent in 2019 was 1,449,000, and it sold October 2020. So 10 months later, and we use CMHC market rents instead of the actual rents because the purchaser increased the rents by 25% after they bought the property, which indicates the property were below market rent. The purchaser did not renovate or improve because there was a new building that built in 2015. So there's nothing to have been put in there. So they simply increased the rents. So the line, page 22 shows the calculations for the rent increase with using CMHC tables. And the last paragraph shows what the purchaser increased the rents by. And by page 23, we have the repair maintenance analysis on that. So I believe when the assessor gives us rebuttal evidence, we agree on the expenses. And we agree on virtually everything except the actual rents to use. So that would be the main difference with the assessment department. We're using market rents for 150 Hendons. We're using the actual rents approved at the time of purchase. And that would be my cap rate study.
Okay. Questions, Ms. Ting?
So for your cap rate study, I guess on page 99 is for 2390 McPhillips. So based on the research, it shows the market rent should be $1,528.
Somebody's talking in the background. I'm not sure, but yeah, 1528 per suite. Yes.
Okay, so do you know how much they charge for parking?
Shows they're getting 45,000.
Okay, so wouldn't that, if you add that rent with the parking income, wouldn't that be supporting our model rent of $1,683.23? Considering 2390 McPhillips was built in 2015 and the subject property was built in 2022?
Oh, you're not disputing the cap rate. You're using that as a rent comparable now?
No, I'm just using according to the market information. The market rent does support what we have for the model, because that is your market study. And it looks like your market study does support our rent.
For the subject property and not for McPhillips, right? So
that is correct.
Okay. So we use 1528 market rent for 2390 McPhillips. For the subject property, we're using the actual rents I had, and comparing it to the sister building, 106 Lira.
So for the rent that you provided separately, so before the discount, the average rent is about $1,591.
Yeah, before discount is 1,592,000. Yeah.
Okay. And I just want to point out, I guess, so on page 2, so it says the 2025 assessed value was 52 million. Our records show the assessed value was 42 million. I'm just wondering if that was a typo.
Oh, yeah, the first page, yeah. Sorry, yeah, that's true.
Okay, no further questions.
Yeah, it's nice for you to point that out. Yeah, it's a typo. I guess we get that from another report. Maybe 106 Lira is 52 million.
I don't have any other questions.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McFadden, any questions?
For Mr. DuPont, on your page 11, you show a range of cap rates for buildings newer than 2005 from 5 to 5.75. I'm wondering, is that the entire range, or is it like the cities where 20% of the buildings would actually have a lower rate than 5? Or would 5 be the very lowest rate for the very best building on the market?
That's our base cap rate. That's what we have for most newer properties. I would say the majority of the new properties, we're giving it 5%. And then we would add normally only a quarter for negative factors. So we rarely go above 5.25.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
Mr. Seelan.
Just a question. I think this is page 12. Just gonna shift here. You have a column that says subject stabilized percentage PSM. Is that rent you're saying is stabilized here? the $1,482.
Oh, yeah. The rent, the potential gross rents. That's the rent roll at 248,000 that I presented times 12.
Okay, but it's not,
And sorry,
I apologize. It's not really stabilized, is it?
let's
Like-
stabilize that we're using the actual rent to stabilize the subject's income.
Okay, so this is the actual rent as of the reference date.
Yes, most properties will use actual rents as the market rent, so that
Okay,
and the majority of the time, the actual rents are deemed to be market rents, and so that's what we're doing now. We're taking the rent roll that I had, and it shows some discounts, which come to 98,000, whatever. And Sharon had told me it was something like 15 something before discounts, and then after discounts, it comes to 1482.
okay, thank you. Thanks for the clarification. That's all. Any questions, Mr. Chair?
Okay, now you have typified this location as being remote, but isn't in fact there being a lot of development in that area?
The map shows a lot of undeveloped areas around it.
But there's new lights put on McPhillips at Murray and a couple other places, and there's even development going up in West St. Paul beside the Perimeter Highway on McPhillips. Wouldn't that be more typified as a rapidly developing area?
No, so remote compared to Sage Creek, compared to the new apartments in Pegwas, compared to Linden Woods or those areas and along Wilkes, etc. Those are all like near IKEA. That's totally all developed, it's full of commercial. This area compared to IKEA or the other areas, Sage Creek is not well developed. Like property in Sage Creek where you have all the retail all around the village is it's a lot better than this. It will develop over time. Like you say, there is development further up and further down, but surrounding it now is remote. You can see on page 5 that you get fields on each side. It's not yet developed. It's not as if they paid top dollar for land because it was remote. I believe that's most other newer developments are in better areas, more developed areas.
Okay. Now looking at your rent roll there, I see there are move-in credits of 86,940. Wouldn't a potential buyer be looking at the future and saying, well, I don't have to pay that again? And then should we not discount that in the rents going forward?
I don't believe we've ever received a decision, municipal board removing move-in bonuses, and
Well,
I don't think it hasn't been something that's been brought up very often. And it's a discount now, and it'd be speculating to say that it would be able in the future to rent it without the discounts. It took those particular discounts, so what they're actually getting is 248,000 after the discount.
But in the
And
future,
maybe in the future the market will be better or will stabilize towards something else. We don't know that.
okay. I don't know if the municipal board has specifically said that for apartment buildings, but they have been very um, clear and emphatic on tenant inducements not being allowed for. Is that not true?
Yes, for commercial, the leases tend to be 5 years, so it applies for 5 years, and so the municipal board has disallowed these discounts, which are in fact applicable for a very long time. So what we're distinguishing. And I know in the 90s when I went to the municipal board, the assessor was always finding discounts, and at that time the board allowed all discounts for apartments. So in the 90s when we were finding that the municipal board had never stated certain types of discounts to be allowed and others not allowed. So I haven't seen anything from the municipal board disallowing certain types of discounts.
Okay. Thank you for that, and I have no more questions.
Mr. Chair, Mr.
yes.
Chair, sorry. I just have one follow-up question for Mr.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there not a difference between a discount that is going on and a move-in, which sounds to me like it would be a one-time at the very beginning to move in, not an ongoing discount? Am I making too much of that?
A lot of apartments have discounts, and you can call it whatever name it is. It's a discount. So the most of them, the RTB approves a certain amount, and they say that's the rents that they can get, and then they give a discount. And they can call it move a discount. They can call it all sorts of things. There was in the past a lot of projects where they were giving what they call move-in discounts, and they continued to give discounts each and every year thereafter. So I wouldn't put too much into the name moving because the leases are all 1 year. So at the end of the 1 year, it's market, whatever the market will bear, and they may have to continue giving the discounts.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you for that. We'll move to, I guess, almost next door, 106 Lyra Gate. Let me open the files. Okay, Miss Ting on 106. Oops, I opened the wrong file. All right, I'm ahead of my time. What am I doing here? I've got too many things open here. I was going to the wrong one. All right, now I'll open the right ones. I was already doing tomorrow's hearing. Okay, on 106 Lyra Gate. You can begin, Miss Ting.
File number is 24-1804. Roll number is 050094275990. Address is 106 Lyra Gate. The assessed value for 2025 is $40,571,000. So similar to the previous property, there are 4 buildings with 2 to 4 stories each. It was built in 2021. There are a total of 175 suites, 44 indoor parking, and 217 outdoor parking. Page 2 and 3 of my brief shows the subject property photos. And page 4 shows the sale history prior to the buildings were built. And page 5 to 9 shows the permits for the buildings. And page 10 is the evaluation. So there are 71 one-bedroom, 82 two-bedrooms, 22 three-bedrooms, and we use a monthly rent of $1,523.20. We use 3% vacancy, 37.89% expense ratio, 4.75% cap rate, and that gives us $40,571,000, which is equivalent to about $231,834 per suite. And again, on page 11, this shows the sale history in 2022 for some of the new builds, and we can see that they were range between about 266,000 per suite to about 284,000 per suite. And page 12 is the rent comparable for the property. And 13 and 14 is the cap rate study. And page 20 to page 22 is the income expense information for the property. And that's my presentation.
Okay. Questions, Mr. DuPont?
Do you have any comparables for your expense ratio?
No, I don't.
And your cap rate again is 4.75, which would be at the low end or even lower than the brokers at 5 to 6%. Would you agree with that?
I would say it's pretty similar to the lower end.
And your rent is lower than it was for Myra Boulevard. Myra, do you know why you're lower or different?
I think it's because the square footage is slightly lower compared to 125 Muir Gate. And also this one is 1 year older compared to the previous property. That's the only information I have.
That's all questions I have.
Okay, Mr. Seeling, questions?
I have no questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Ms. McFadden?
I have no question. Thank you.
Okay, I have no specific questions, so you can begin, Mr. DuPont.
Yes, so now first page of the report. They show the assessment, 40 million. I hope I got it right this time. Here's I have. And I'm asking for 35 million. Then we show some more photos on the next page. And then we show the aerial photo, the page after that. I believe now we see a basketball court in the middle. That photo. Oh, I guess I don't have any page numbers. I'm sorry about that. Then if you scroll down, you get the aerial map, and then this time I did full aerial map going all the way to the perimeter. You can see that a whole bunch of undeveloped lands, all in the brown spots there. And there is some development happening there along Murray Boulevard, but most of the area is undeveloped. Then after that, some more aerial maps showing more of the close-ups.
Where are these aerial maps?
I don't have the page number, I'm sorry. So if you go, I guess after the photo on top, that you go to authorized user scope of work, and you go scroll down under property description.
Property description.
Oh, it shows page 8. If I go on the left on my Adobe, it says it's page 8 of 40. My pages are not numbered, but it is the page 8.
Okay. All right.
So you got it there?
Yep.
Okay. Then the next page, some more aerial photos. And then another map, page 10, a Google map. And then maybe we can go to the appendix. So then you have to scroll to page 19. I don't have the page number, but that's a page showing my Adobe. So it shows the some of the photos of stainless steel appliances or newer properties and vinyl plank, etc. Then it shows on page 21 the floor plan. There again, it's 530 square feet, so it's relatively small. And the other one bedroom is bath and den 642, which I think is very similar to Myra. So the other suites for 2 bedrooms, etc., are relatively good size, 876, 832 square feet. They're not big in any way, but it's a good size. And then page 26, we have some more photos, which shows the dining room and the kitchen. And some more photos there that we have, bedrooms and the washer and dryer just off the bathroom. And to show part of the gym. Then page 33, that's where it shows the pool and the basketball court, the outdoor pool. And then after that, we have the questionnaires, we have the financial statements on page 37. So I think we can go back now to the page where we show cap rates. Oh, it's a bit, mine is a bit messed up there on other income approach, I guess, and there, the page income approach superimpose itself on the cap rate. But it's basically the same as what we had before. So 2005 plus is 5, range 5.0 to 5.75. We have pretty much the same features as we had for Myra, multi-building and good amenities, remote location along undeveloped area or developing area. Maybe it's not a way to put it. It's being developed now. Parking is also inferior with 23% indoors. 175 suites, so it's a relatively large investment. So we give it cap rate 5.25, which is the 5% base plus a 0.25% premium for its negative factors. At the next page, which is page 16, that's the spreadsheet. So the top shows the year built and the parking and the suite mix, and then the factors that I had shown on the previous page for cap rates. Also, I also put in those same factors there. So that there was developed in 2021, and as you can see, line 1, its potential rents that it had. Line 2 discounts. So the discounts in 21 was 192,000 and increased to 398. The next year, the rents increased also. So they changed the rent, they changed the discounts. So the line 3, the potential market rent after discounts increased only slightly from 2,976 to 2,111. And so we stabilized at that, which is 1482 per suite. Which is probably the exact amount that we got for we put in for Myra. We put the vacancy they had at 13.2% vacant in 2011 and 6.3 in 2022. So that's the vacancy they're getting back from the market, pushing back those rents and whatever they're offering, location and features, etc. We had the parking at actual. So line 13. We're at 3,072 and the assessor 3,000,001. So we're similar, unlike the Myra, mainly because the assessor had lower rents. They started closer to 1482. And then parking, I show in the remarks. In December 22, rent roll times 12 is 132. They actually got 139, so they got slightly higher there. So they pretty much matches. So then we have expenses. So we have operating expenses for the 2 years. And we stabilize relatively normal. So we got the insurance 110,000, which we stabilized at. Management fee standards 5%. We use averages for certain things like professional fees and office and sundry and advertising, and waste and snow. Now we use the average. We maybe should have used the 2022 instead. It's apparently unusual to have zero waste for 2021, waste and snow. Anyways, we use the average, so we cut that cost in half. Repair maintenance, we stabilized at 721, which is 2-year average. So they spent 128,000 1 year, 123,000 second year, average 126, 140, and that's what we stabilized at. 721. We use the wages and caretaking at the average. It was a bit erratic, 107 1 year, 211 the other year. So we went the average. So there again, we went lower expenses. Then we used the actual taxes. So the expense ratio actual for the line 32 was 2021 44.9. The next year was 43.2. We stabilized at 42.9. This just was 37.9. Theirs is not site specific. So that I believe we should be using the site specific expense ratio. So our net operating income is 1,755,000, which is less than the assessment at 1,927. So that since the EGI is very similar, we're only slightly lower. We're maybe 30,000 lower in EGI. Main differences in the expenses. And then the cap rate, we're using 5.25 cap rate, which would be 33,434,000. And then my first page said 35 million. And so I changed that. 33,525,000. 33 million is the proper amount. And that's my report.
Okay, questions, Ms. Ting?
So the school tax rebate is not included in the calculation.
What makes you say that?
It looks like the 2022 tax is pretty similar to 2021, which doesn't have the rebate. So it doesn't look like it was deducted from the actual tax paid.
Did you do a calculation of what the taxes would be based on its assessment?
No, did you?
No.
Okay. Okay. Do you have any rent comparables and expense ratio comparables from the market?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, I stabilized at actuals.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Okay, Ms. McFadden, questions?
So the vacancy rate that you've used at 6.3, I noticed that it's half of what it was the year before. Does that not suggest that perhaps it's on its way down because it's just this is a rent out period for a new building, and that in 2023 it would in fact be lower still?
It's a possibility. It's a downward trend. So the lease up would have occurred in 2021. So the first year we can say it's a lease up.
Yeah.
So it was in fact 87% full at the time, and they increased the rents, and they increased the discounts. So I believe now that it's not a lease up period anymore. They're leasing the rents and they're getting market pushback. So I don't see any particular indication that we can speculate that going forward the vacancy should be lower.
Other than the fact that it's quite a bit lower in that sister building at 125 Mira, where it's only 3%.
I'm not using Mira as an example. I didn't check that part.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Seelan.
My questions have been answered, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay. So the 42.9% expense ratio, that's what you applied to the previous property we did? That was the
Myra,
reason.
yeah, yes, yeah.
That's the reason why you use that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I have no further questions then. So what's the time? 2:04. Let's take a break till 2:15 and then come back and do some more properties. Okay, thank you. Welcome back. We'll continue with 249 Talbot Avenue. And Ms. Teng, I understand you have a rec on this, so you can begin your presentation.
File number.
Oh, you're muted. Okay.
Michelle, you're mute. Yeah.
Okay. File number is 24-1719. Roll number is 140914941000. Address is 249 Talbot Avenue. The assessed value for 2025 is 3,319,000. There's one building with 2 stories. It was built in 1966. There are 36 suites and 25 outdoor parking. So the recommendation is based on the condition of the property. So the recommended value is to use the average rent of $699.87 instead of the original value of $818.76. Then we use 2.6% vacancy, 49.91% expense ratio, and 5.2% cap rate. And the new value that we're proposing is $2,837,000.
Okay, Mr. Dupont, how do you feel about the recommendation?
And you're using a 5.2% cap rate?
Yeah, so we just decrease the rent and then we keep the vacancy rate and the expense ratio the same and the cap rate the same too.
So what's your net income?
Net operating income is $147,507.
I'll accept.
You'll accept it? Okay. Thank you. Is there any questions from the panel on the property?
I have none.
No questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We'll move down the street or up the street to 260 Talbot. Okay, and
I'm wondering, would that be 267?
267, yes. We settled 260. I should have scratched that one out on my docket. Okay, 267 Talbot.
File number is 24-1452. Roll number is 140915041000. The assessed value for 2025 is $2,001,000. And there's one building with 2 stories. It was built in 1963. There are 20 suites and 12 outdoor parkings. Page 2 and 3 of my brief shows the subject property photos and locations. Page 5 shows the evaluation. So there are 3 bachelor suites, 14 one-bedroom, and 3 two-bedrooms. And we use a monthly rent of $854.04. And use 2.6% vacancy, 49.38% expense ratio, and 5.05% cap rate. And that gives us 2,001,000. And page 6 is the comparable rent. And 7 and 8 is the cap rate study. And page 14 to 15 is the income and expense information. And that's my presentation.
Okay, questions, Mr. Dupont?
Your expense ratio, that's a model expense ratio, is not site specific.
That's correct.
And the cap rate is 5.05 for an older property built 1963. So that's the low end of the range of the broker's reports and your reports. So why is it at the low end of the range?
I guess it's kind of in the middle of the range, 5.05.
The brokers are low rise, Colliers 5 to 6, CBRE 5 to 5.25, and Cushman 5 to 5.75. So it is at the low end. When 5 is the low end, 5.05 is right there.
I can't speak for other, I guess, other studies. I'm not sure exactly how their cap rate is calculated. I know that Collier is using the net operating income 12-month following the date of sale to calculate the cap rate. So that might drive the cap rate to be slightly higher compared to what we have. But I can't speak for CBRE or Cushman Wakefield. But according to our report, it looks like the 5.05 is in the middle range of the 4.75 and 5.45.
Okay, she made that claim, and Colliers uses the next year's net operating income. Can you tell us what your source is?
Is on the report on page 20. I don't have that in my evidence, but if you have a Collier's cap rate study for Q1 2023 on page 20, the first line, that's what it would say.
What does the line say?
So it says a capitalization rate is the property's net operating income for the 12-month following the date of sale divided by the purchase price.
Okay, so they say that they calculate the next year's income divided by the sale price.
That is correct.
They don't say they're actually using the actual income and expense of the next year. So that it does not clearly say they're using the next year's income to calculate the NOI for the cap rate. Would you agree with that?
It sounds to me that they're using the 12 months future rent to calculate the cap rate. That's the way I understand it.
But they don't say that. They're saying it is the future income, the future 1 year income.
It says it's a 12-month of the following, the 12-month following the date of sale.
Yeah.
So to me, that is the 12 months, the future rent of the 12 month after the sale date.
Okay, that's all the questions I have.
Okay, Mr. Sealing, questions?
No questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Ms. McFadden?
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Okay, and I have no questions, so Mr. Dupont, you can begin your presentation.
I'd like to go over my cap rate study again. Can I do that now? I just want to bring the quotes from the Appraisal Institute first. And,
Okay. Go ahead.
the page 2 of the cap rate study, we show what the cap rate study is. So we estimate 1 year's operating income. So we're not doing a whole bunch of years. So when you do a whole bunch of years, it's not a direct capitalization rate at that point in time. And so the page 4, my cap rate study, we quote from the Appraisal Institute that says the basis of income producing real estate is the future income it will produce. Historical data on a property market is relevant only insofar as it helps interpret the current market anticipations. And the next quote from the Appraisal Institute is the principle of anticipation is fundamental to the approach. And the next quote from the Appraisal Institute says historical income and current income are significant, but the ultimate concern is the future. Current income is a good starting point, but the direction and expected pattern of income change are critical to the cap rate process. So basically, we use the historical and the current income stream at the time of a property in order to estimate the next year's net operating income. And that's what Colliers is doing. They're doing exactly what the Appraisal Institute says they should be doing. They're calculating what the next year's income would be when you take a property. So that means when you take a property and it's up for sale and they've increased the rents as of the possession date, you should be using that. And it says it's only historical data is only relevant insofar as helped interpret the market anticipation, the next year's income. So now we can go to my presentation on this. 267. See the photos. The first page, we take those photos to determine whether they have air conditioning or not. There's no air conditioning under the windows or in the windows. Then the next page, I got my page number wrong. I got page 10. Anyways, where we show page 10, there's actually in the rear, there's one window AC. No, two, I guess. Those would be the tenant windows or conditionings. So the property is not air conditioned. And it has basement suites, which are inferior suites. And the appendix, if you look at the appendix, it shows page 26. It's misnumbered pages, but it shows some other photos of the property. And we show what Sussex says about that and building amenities. Very little in the amenities. They don't say anything about being renovated or anything. It says this charming, clean, and quiet apartment. Just steps from the Red River. So we can go to page 21, the start of our cap rate. So the assessors got 5.05 cap rate. We're 5.75. The property is built 1963, and for that age group, we have 5.75 to 6.5 as our range. And we give this property the bottom of the range, which is the best part of the range. Now it's on Talbot. It's an inferior location, low value neighborhood, low outdoor parking, 75%, small GFA, 872 per suite, no air conditioning, basement suites, no balconies or amenities, 4-suite mix, 15% bachelors, 70% one bedroom, only 15% two bedroom. The location, we can look at the page 14, where it starts with the aerial photo of the property. Then below that is a Google map, shows on Talbot. And then we show at bottom of page 15, we have the old houses in front of the apartment on the left side of that photo. And the next page shows the properties just besides the subject property. And then we have assessments. So the assessment of the properties to the left of the property is 392, 166,000. So they have houses, 166,000. And in front of the property assessments, 181,000, 206,000, 224. So we have apartments, a bit higher assessments, and then we have the houses as low as 166. It's a low value area, so that I would say it's an inferior location. So page 22 is the spreadsheet. So top of the page, we show the statistics on the property, and the parking it has is 15 stalls, which is 75% of the 20 stalls that it has. Show the gross floor area, 872. Then we show the suite mixes there, the 3 bathrooms and 14 one bedroom, etc. Shows the suite mix, which we talked about in the previous page on cap rate. And the factors we have for cap rate shown on the top right corner of that spreadsheet. So the rents that it has, Sussex statements don't show vacancy. They'll show you the discounts that it gives. Then I'll show you the actual rent that they get. So the vacancy is included in that. So line 3 for 2022, 186,000. They're actually getting that year. But we use the December 2022 after discount. 16,710 times 12, 200,520. So we use the higher rent, which is what we're saying we should do with some of our cap rates when we know the rents are higher, and we should use the higher rents. We use the 3% vacancy because we're using the market rents instead of the actuals. Then we add the laundry and parking. Then we should maybe go to the questionnaires to establish where I got the 16,000 in rents. That's I believe page 28. Oh, 31 and 32 and page 34. That's a rent roll times 12. December 2022 rent roll. So back to the spreadsheet. So the rents they're getting is not that high, $836, which would indicate it's not a renovated property in any way. And the assessors not that far off. Line 13, once we add the parking and laundry, we are basically the same rents. So the EGI is pretty much undisputed. The expenses that we stabilize pretty much done the normal way. Actuals most current year for some of the expenses like insurance, utilities, taxes, and caretaking usually. And we use the average for some items that normally more erratic, like professional fees and miscellaneous. Waste and snow. Repair maintenance, we stabilize at 1647 per suite. Line 27, you'll see the average for the 3 years, 42,000, but we stabilize at 32,000, which is less, mainly because we are doing site specific on the next page, page 23. So we've disallowed the general building costs in 2019. It was relatively high. So we exclude that cost, then we multiply by 50%. So we cut that general building costs down to 4,300. And under painting, we give it a maximum of 225. It was 5528, and we brought it to 4500. And the remaining RM, it's not that erratic, but nevertheless, we allowed 50% of that amount. So the last line of that page shows the amount of the R&M per suite, excluding the CapEx and waste and snow. There's the first 5 items. And that's what it is per suite. We stabilize at 1647, which is quite reasonable in relation to the actuals there. So back to the previous page. The expenses we stabilize at 102, 103,000 versus the assessment of 99,000. So we're not that far off. So net operating income is 96,800 versus the assessment at 101. So we have a small difference in NOI, and the main difference is in the cap rate. The assessor is relatively low, cap rate 505. We're at 5.75, which is at the bottom of our range, even though it has quite a few negative factors, and one of them is being the location. It's a low value neighborhood. And that's my report.
Okay, questions, Ms. Ting?
I guess just a couple. So have you seen any actual property appraisal reports that would use the future rent to calculate net operating income for their valuation that's not for the Board of Revision purpose?
Never. They don't use the future income to stabilize. They stabilize the historical income to get to the future income. And that's what I did in this one. I went with the future income. I used the 2022 rent roll. So what I stabilize here, subject stabilize, I'm not stabilizing 2022. I'm stabilizing 2023, the year coming up. So the whole purpose of stabilizing a property is to establish the income going forward. So if you're buying a property, you say, what income am I going to earn on this? It's the first year's income. And so another way of saying it, it's not the next year's income, the first year's income. And virtually every appraisal text, etc., will be saying the next year's income, the first year income. And I've been an appraiser since the 1990s, 80s maybe. I've been always stabilizing the next year's income.
Okay, but you haven't seen an actual report that was prepared for the property appraisal itself. So say for like a bank purpose or for any other purposes that is not for the Board of Revision?
As I said, appraisals do not stabilize on the year after the sale, the year after the valuation date. They use the historical and the current income and expense to determine the next year's income. So
Okay.
there's no appraisal that I know that ever does that, doesn't use the year after. Because if you go into a bank, you say, what's my present value? You don't know what the next year's income and expenses are. So you can't do it because physically it's impossible. When we do a Board of Revision, it's retroactive, but actual appraisals are going for lending purposes. They cannot use subsequent years' income and expense because they don't know that.
Okay, no further questions.
Okay, Ms. McFadden, questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Mr. Seelan?
Yes, have you inspected this property?
No, I have not.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Chair?
Okay. Thank you. I have no questions, so we'll move on to the next property, 273 Talbots. So, Ms. Teng, you can begin on that property when you are ready.
File number is 24-1454. Roll number is 140915045000. Address is 273 Talbot Avenue. The assessed value is 4,242,000. There's one building with 2 stories. It was built in 1963. There are 40 suites and 35 outdoor parking. Page 5 shows the evaluation. So there are 6 bachelor suites, 24 one-bedroom, 10 two-bedrooms, and we use a rent of $929.05. Then we use 2.6% vacancy, 48.24% expense ratio, and 5.3% cap rate. And that gives us $4,242,000. And page 6 is the comparable rent. And page 17 to page 19 shows the pictures of the subject property. And that's my presentation.
Questions, Mr. DuPont?
I'm looking. No, your rents, your market rents, your page 6. So your 4 comparables are all lower than subject, 929, and they're all 800, even one 792. So it does not indicate that your rents are too high.
No, because the size of the comparables are also a lot lower compared to the subject property as well.
The subject has bachelors, 6 bachelors.
That's correct.
If you take comparable number 4 as 0 bachelors, 24 one bedroom, but at 18 two bedrooms versus subject at 10 two bedroom. So the comparable number 4 would have a better suite mix, even though the square footage apparently is lower, 871 versus 922. You would
Yep.
agree that suite mix is better there?
Yeah, I agree. For comparable 3, is it correct? Or is it comparable 4?
4 as no bachelors. Comparable 2 has no bachelors either.
Okay.
But comparable 4 has no bachelors and more 2 bedrooms.
Okay.
Anyways, would you agree that your comparables do not support the high rents that you have?
It kind of does. It works out to be about $1 per square foot, which is similar to the subject property.
The cap rate you have, 5.3%, and that's a model cap rate again.
That's correct.
And so why is it 5.3 and the previous one was 5.05? Do you know why the model would do that?
I'm not too sure.
That's all questions I have.
Okay, questions, Mr. Seelan?
No questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Miss McFadden?
My question's been asked and answered. Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. DuPont, you can begin.
Okay, photo, page 1. L shape. And then the second page, we get more of a close-up, and there's no landlord air conditioning. There's a few tenant window ACs here and there. You'll see an air conditioning in the window, and that would be, they're not repeating, so therefore they're owned by the tenant. The bottom page 10, we'll see one on the right-hand side and one on the bottom suite on the left-hand side, window air conditioning. And then we can go to the aerial maps, so page 14 and then 15. So that it shows the Google Maps, and that's the Elmwood neighborhood, which you're probably all familiar with. And then next page, page 16, it also shows the assessments in the area. And then you have some apartments there in there, and then you have some of the lower price houses. The house in front is 184,000. One across 206,000, 181,000, 224. they are very, very low prices for the houses in the neighborhood. Page 16 is area. It shows a photo of the houses in the neighborhood. So it is not the best area. It's an inferior area, to which would affect the cap rate. And actually, it's built in the rents also as to what they can get for their rents. So the assessor of page 21, the assessors at 5.3, we're at 5.75. So we're at the bottom of the range, is the best part of our range. Our range 5.75 to 6.5. So the factors we show superior location, low outdoor parking 75%, small GFA per suite 884, no air conditioning, no balconies or amenities. Poor suite mix have 25% bachelors, 50% one bedroom, 25% two bedrooms. So the next page is the spreadsheet. So the actual rent they got, line 3, 825. And I see on top matches the year-end rent roll. So we basically use the year-end, which is the same as what they actually got. We use 2% vacancy. The actual is showing 1.2. The assessor is using 2.6. We use in between. Then we added the laundry. No parking income would be included in the rents. So the effective gross income we have line 13, 392 versus the assessor 434. That's a big difference there. That's offset by our expenses, line 33. We have less expenses in the assessor. We have less dollar expenses, which is not much, almost the same. The expense ratio is a bit higher, mainly because there's lower rents to start with. So we show line 14, we show some blue. Some of the items are shown in blue because there's increasing trend. So the insurance have increased from 9,700 in 2020 to 14,005, increasing trend. We've seen that a lot of apartment blocks. Then the gas also increased from 17,000, 20,000, 25,000, increasing trend. Caretaker also increased. And under line 28, we checked it 2023 and it's 41,000 for a caretaker, so that it has maintained itself at that level. So we stabilize pretty much normal. The last year for some of the items like insurance and utilities and caretaking and taxes. We looked at the utilities to see if it was erratic, whether we should be adjusting, but it's not that far off from the previous years. The water was higher, then decrease, but the gas increased. So overall, utilities pretty much the same. So our net income at line 33 is 185,000 versus the assessor 224. So most of that difference comes from the lower rents to start with, and because the expenses are very close. And then when we apply the cap rate at 5.75, we get a value of 3,200,000 versus the assessor 4,200,000. So it's $1 million difference in value, a lot to do with the actual rent. And the actual rent, the assessor is high in their own comparables, and the rents that you get in a particular property has a lot to do with the condition it's in and what kind of repair maintenance it's got over the years. Because all the properties are a different journey and there are different places depending on how much money they've been putting in their repair maintenance. Page 23 is our repair maintenance. There's no breakdown in the statistics statements. And we stabilized the 5-year average, 1264. Which is a relatively low amount to start with. And that's what we had in the previous page. And there's really no dispute in the expenses. We're slightly less in the assessor. We're actually less in the assessor dollar-wise. So most of our differences in the rents and then the cap rate. So that's my report. Thank you.
Okay, questions, Ms. Ting?
I have no questions.
Okay, Ms. McFadden,
I have no questions, thank you.
Mr. Seelen,
You inspected this property?
No, I have not.
Thank you. That's all. Any questions, Mr. Chair?
okay, and I have no questions, so thank you very much. Let's move on to down to the next block. 335 Talbot.
Mr. Chair, is 335 Talbot?
335 Talbot, yes.
I'm going to ask for confirmation on that one.
Okay, I understand your work. So if you can lead us through the base information, Ms. Ting.
File number is 24-2114. Roll number is 140918161000. Address is 335 Talbot Avenue. The assessed value for 2025 is 2,348,000. It's one building with 2 stories. It was built in 1967. There are 23 suites and 15 outdoor parking. Page 5 shows the evaluations. So there are 6 bachelor, 6 1-bedroom, 11 2-bedrooms. We use a monthly rent of $892.67. Then we use 2.6% vacancy, 51.08% expense ratio, and 5% cap rate, and that gives us 2,348,000. And that's my presentation.
Okay, are there any questions from the panel on this property? Mr. DuPont has requested confirmation.
No questions, Mr. Chair.
No questions.
All right, thank you. Now we'll come to our last property, 402 Talbot, and I understand the city will be requesting non-co-op on that. So, Ms. Tang, can you lead us through the base information and then into the non-co-op?
File number is 24-2350. Roll number is 140917040000. Address is 402 Talbot Avenue. The assessed value for 2025 is 1,643,000. And there's one building with 3 stories. It was built in 2019. There are 9 suites with 9 outdoor parkings. So we sent out the questionnaires for 2022, and it looks like they have received it. There's a signature on page 3, but we never received the income and expense information back. So we're requesting for non-compliance.
Okay, is that your presentation on the non-compliance?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. DuPont, any questions on this?
So where did you send where's your proof that it was received?
The Canada Post on page 2 says that it was delivered on June the 12th, and page 3 there's a signature for the person who received it.
I don't see that page 2 or 3. Is it different pages?
Yeah, I see it there on page 2. There's the Canada Post tracking showing June 12th, 9:49 a.m. signature available, or delivered and the signature available, and then on page 3 there's a signature of some sort. It looks more like initials, but
Okay, we're doing 402 Talbot. I got the right address.
Yep. 402 Talbot, yes.
It says request for income information and subject sale history. And I don't see.
That's page 6.
I don't see the information.
It's on page 2 and 3.
Directly under the recommendation. Mr.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I think I have 2023 open. That's why. Sorry. It's the wrong year. So what's the file number again?
24-2350.
Okay. I had the wrong year. Sorry. Okay, I have no further questions.
Okay, Mr. Seelan,
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Ms. McFadden.
No questions.
Okay, Ms. Tang, on page 2 and 3, you show that something was received, but I don't see the actual letter anywhere. So how were we to determine what was received?
I guess I'm not too sure. This is the information that we have from our system for the income expense information delivery for the signature and the tracking. I'm not too sure what other information I would need to provide to show that was that.
Typically, what we have is the letter that was sent.
Oh,
So we know what the city was asking for. In this instance, it appears that something was signed for, but we don't know what it was that was signed for.
Or where it was sent to. I didn't check that out. She doesn't show where you sent it or to who.
Okay, I guess with that, I guess the board will deliberate. Oh, Mr. DuPont, I guess we have to hear from you on this.
Yeah, I'm just going with the owner, and I have the assessor's owner's and address. And if she had proof that she had sent it to that owner and that address, I would not dispute it. But you state that doesn't show where they sent the letter. So they
it
could have sent.
looks like they sent it to 1530 Taylor Avenue.
It looks, or you know.
Well,
That's where all the assess notice and the tax notice being sent to. So
Okay.
they would be the same address that we sent the income expense request.
Okay, you're just assuming. Okay, thanks.
Okay, is there anything
That's
else?
all I have. Yeah, no, that's all I have.
Okay, Mr. Seelan, any questions of Mr. DuPont?
No questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Ms. McFadden?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, so the board then will deliberate on the non-co-op and come back with a decision presently. All right, thank you very much. The board has deliberated and without knowing what was sent and where it was sent to, we cannot grant the non-co-op. Typically, what is done is the assessor will attach the letter that was sent. And so we will know what address it was sent to and what exactly they were being asked for. But in this instance, we can't presume. So we will not grant the non-co-op. So Ms. Teng, you can proceed with your presentation.
Okay, so page 4 and 5 shows the subject property photos and locations. And page 6 shows the sale history for the subject property prior to the building was built. And page 7 shows the permit information. And page 8 shows the valuation. So there's one bedroom and 8 2-bedrooms. And we use a monthly rent of $1,202.34. Then we use 2.6% vacancy, 40.23% expense ratio, and 4.6% cap rate. And that gives us $1,643,000, and which is equivalent to about $182,552 per suite. And page 9 shows the comparable sale in 2022. And page 10 is the sales is the rent comparables and map. And so we don't have the 2022 income and expense, and I did attach the 2020 income and expense. And so that is on page 18 to page 20. And page 21 to page 30 is the subject property photos. And that's my presentation.
Okay. Questions, Mr. DuPont?
Your rent comparables, page 10. So the subjects is in Elmwood and your comparables, they're all not in Elmwood. Molson, Henderson, Beach, Molson. Would you agree with that?
I agree.
And the subject gross floor area per unit is 804, which is quite low, and all the others are 1,400, 1,200, 1,000, 1,059. We agree they're much bigger also.
Yeah, but the price per square foot is much lower compared to the subject property as well.
And is it supposed to be lower?
The subject property is fairly new, and it is in a very good condition. If you look at the pictures at the back of my brief, so that tells you the condition of the properties.
So, and anyways, your condition is not necessarily the same, so that it's new, but it's not necessarily the top materials, etc. Would you agree that the quality of the finish is not determined by your photos?
Well, we consider the subject property to be above average condition. But I can't speak to the materials or what's in there.
Oh, so you're saying it's above average for a property of this age group?
Not for this age group. It's just for this one particular property. We use the above average for the condition.
Mm-hmm. And your cap rate's 4.6%, and versus the broker's report showing 5 to 6%. Would you agree you're on the low side there?
It is fairly new built, and the price per unit is pretty compatible to the sales that we provided on page 9.
So you agree it's low, but yeah, in the fact that
It's a market cap rate.
It's all questions I have.
Okay, Mr. Sealing, questions?
No questions, Mr. Chair. Thank
Okay,
you.
Mr. McFadden.
I have no questions, thank you.
Okay, okay, if we look at this property and say compare it to the ones we did on Lyra Gate and Myra Gate, this one you're using a cap rate of 4.6, and the other one's using 4.75. Why the difference? Are all new. The other ones are actually a little fancier. I would at least have more amenities. Why the difference in cap?
I'm thinking it might be because it's a smaller building. So it has nice suites compared to the other ones that is over 100. So the first one has 161 unit. The next one has about 175 units. So I think that will also impact the cap rate as well.
Okay, thank you very much. So Mr. DuPont, you can begin your presentation.
Yes, so you can go to my second page. It's not page not shown correctly. We show second page is page 9, so you started off wrong. But nevertheless, you see the photos. It's a very plain little building. It's inside lots on Talbot, so it's Elmwood. And then the rear photo, the next page, the rear parking lot, undeveloped properties beside it, and then you see that some of the older houses in front of it. Then the map, Google Map, page 15, and the assessments in the area are shown page 16, and the photos of the properties in the front are also shown. Similar to our properties on Talbots, it's little properties in the neighborhood. The house on one side is 118,000, the one on the other side 275,000. So 118,000 is quite low in price, lower than some lots you have to buy elsewhere. And then we have other photos of the neighborhood on page 17. Cap rate, page 22, 2005 plus. So our base is 5%, so the range 5 to 5.75. So the factors we say it's inferior location in a low value neighborhood, new but plain finishes, wall EC, no dining room, and has no amenities like the new places in Lyra and my credit. They had the pools and the exercise rooms and all sorts of amenities. This is a newer property with plain finishes, no amenities. It's wall air conditioning, so it doesn't have even air conditioning. Central, sorry. Small suites. The one bedroom is 672 square feet. Two bedrooms is 782 square feet. It does have ensuite washer and dryer, but we give it a 0.25%. This is no premium for negative factors, and it's an error. It's in fact a 0.25% premium. So the next page, page 23. We show 2020 only, so we don't have 21, 2022. So the rents in 2020, EGI was 123 and the assessor's using 126. So we accept the assessor's that and the EGI. And we accept the expense ratio is a bit on the low side, 40.2%, but we accept that. So undisputed net income, we dispute the cap rate only. So they use 4.6, we use 5.5, and that's our difference in values in the cap rate only. We didn't go to the appendix. I should go to the appendix now. So page 26, we have the appendix. It shows the first page 26 has very little comments. The next page, all utilities included, 2-bed, 1 parking spot. Then it shows the old style fire escapes. on this. So it's a very unusual construction for a new property. The next page, page 28, shows the overall with the photos, and it shows what they are, I guess, what they're saying about this. And then we have the next page, we have the comments a bit bigger and very little amenities shown. And then we have the photos, and we have the my comments underneath, the page 30. Laminate countertop, no dining room shown, appears an open area. Then another photo of the kitchen, stainless steel appliances with a dishwasher. Then the overall, well, it shows the living room and the kitchen got it open. And then we show the living room, but only with the air conditioning, the wall air conditioning. The closet, and we show the bathrooms, which is the laminate countertop. So it's very relatively plain finishes. And then the next photo shows the ensuite washer and dryer. And I guess that would be my report, and thank you.
Okay, questions, Ms. Ting?
I have no questions.
Okay, Ms. McFadden?
Just one question. Cap rate it's actually a measurement of risk. Would you not agree that a building that is this much smaller than the earlier ones that we looked at would probably be much lower risk and probably a lower cap rate?
The assessor, I believe the main reason they go below the 5% is when properties are low in number of suites, small, under 20, 25 suites, you tend to have lower cap rate. But I don't believe it's supported in the marketplace. And I do believe that large properties, over 100 suites, etc., it's more professional. They have to get the financing from the banks. It's a big thing. So they would follow more of the rules of the market. So I think what their assessment department is saying is more of a market for nice suiters and mom and pops, and they may not follow the rules in the market, etc. But I don't believe we should be giving a cap rate premium for small properties like that below the 5% norm base. We don't believe that people should pay a premium price because it has low number of suites.
So you're giving it a 5.25, the same as you did those first two buildings that were very large.
Yeah, the other ones had their own factors, etc. Remote location, and this one has got an inferior location, much inferior, because the other one's it's not developed. The area is not developed, but it's not a poor area. This one is. It's likely not going to change.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Seelan?
Yes, if you inspected this property?
No, I had not.
Thank you. That's all. Any questions, Mr. Chair?
All right, and I have no questions, so thank you very much. We've heard all the properties on today's agenda, and this hearing is now adjourned. So again, thank you, Mr. Dupont and Ms. Teng, for your capable presentations today.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, the board will take a short break, and we'll come back and do our deliberations.
For sure. For
Thanks.
how long the break will be for?
5 minutes, I would say,
Okay.
just to, yeah.
Sure.